Notre Dame hosting a handful of official visitors and its annual Irish Invasion Camp. I got to hear more about that. So let's welcome in our friend Tom Loy of Irish Illustrated here with us now to break down a big weekend, bringing a little island flair with that shirt. I love it. Tom, let's start with some of those officials. You put in a crystal ball for a couple of 24 targets, 4-star running back Kedren Young and 3-star safety Paul Menke. So what has you leaning Notre Dame with those two?
Yeah, I mean, I feel good at this point with Kedren Young. It seems like Notre Dame's moving in that direction to try to get that one done. They already have a really good running back committed in Aeneas Williams. He's been a long-time top guy for Dylan McCullough, so they're trying to pair those two. There's some other top contenders. I mean, Baylor, Texas A&M, they're all pushing hard. He's fresh off his official visit. I know he's got a great relationship with the staff. He is a tremendous talent, equally strong academically. I mean, this kid is a do-it-all kid on the field and off the field. So tremendous young man. I can see why Marcus Freeman, Jared Parker, Dylan McCullough, all those guys are pushing so hard to land him. So right now my crystal ball is on Notre Dame. I think they're going to get that one done. But again, like these other schools haven't given up. He's one of the best running backs in America, one of the top players in the state of Texas. So everybody's pushing hard to land him. And if Notre Dame can get it done, I mean, he's a tremendous talent. The other one I put in was for Paul Menke Jr., 4-star safety out of Schertz, Texas, Samuel Clemens High School. And this is one that's been kind of intriguing. I know in terms of fit on and off the field, he's a tremendous fit for Notre Dame academically. And then on the field, he's just a really good football player that can do it all in the back end of the secondary. He's somebody that I think is one of the more underrated safeties in the country. I love what he brings to the table. So a lot to like there. What I'm watching moving forward with Menke is that, so my assumption was that he was going to shut it down after this visit. I thought that Notre Dame would be able to seal the deal, get it done, and then potentially land his commitment within the next week or two. And then obviously one school that I mentioned at Irish Illustrated was to watch was for Duke. Mike Elko's got a great staff there. So I'm trying to keep an eye and see if he'll visit Duke this weekend. My sources are saying that he is going to visit Durham and check out the Blue Devils and give them his full consideration. So at that point, honestly, all bets are off. So it's kind of one to really keep an eye on. If he does make that trip to Duke, I'm definitely less confident than he lands at Notre Dame. But again, the assumption was that he was going to take the visit to Notre Dame, shut it down at that point, and they'd be able to seal the deal. But I could very well flip this thing to Duke as soon as he steps on campus in Durham.
A little interesting nugget there from Tom Loy. Notre Dame, meanwhile, also hosted RB Lambert for his official visit. Back in November, Tom, you put in a crystal ball for the Irish after this official visit. How are you feeling about Notre Dame's chances with one of the top line prospects in this 2024 class?
Well, that was definitely a projection pick based on a couple sources that are very close to the situation there. But it's nice to see he finally made it to campus. And from all accounts, Notre Dame absolutely crushed this visit. I feel great about my pick right now. I do feel confident that Notre Dame is the favorite, is the leader. But I know he's got a big visit coming to Ohio State, so that's definitely a team to watch. There's definitely some others involved, whether it's Penn State, Michigan, a few others. But I do feel good about my crystal ball pick at this point. I know Notre Dame made him a big priority. Boubacar Traore is a former teammate of his at Notre Dame right now, so they're in a good spot. I feel great about the pick right now. But again, we're not done. This isn't signing day. It's not the finish line. Notre Dame's doing all they can to close the deal. But I think offensive line coach Joe Rudolph did a really, really good job this weekend of really showing what Notre Dame's about. And Marcus Freeman's tough to say no to. So I know academically he's a fit. I know we've talked about this before, but academically he's a fit. Obviously on the field, you can make the argument that it's O-line U, especially with Joe Walton, Blake Fisher right around the corner. So I know that's very appealing to Lambert. So we'll see how it plays out. But I do think Notre Dame and Ohio State are battling it out. So I think we'll have a pretty good idea where things are trending in about a week or so.
So while Sean Sevillano was the only addition over the last few days, Irish fans, the ones in the chat, understandably, are keeping an eye out for commitments following these official visits. So who are maybe some other recruits who could pop for the Irish in the near future?
Yeah, they definitely have some big visits taking place. There's one that's currently occurring right now with one of the top prospects in the state of Indiana, Fort Wayne Northside safety Bronte Johnson, a 4-star talent that's really a 4-star athlete because he's a a really good football player all around. He can play safety, can play receiver. This kid, he's also a great basketball player for that matter. But Notre Dame loves him at safety. They're pushing hard to get that one done. My crystal ball has been on Notre Dame for a while, and I think they're going to get it done. But Purdue, Tennessee, Indiana, there's a lot of schools still pushing. But I think that what separates them is that there's a lot of people close to Bronte that really believe he's a future day 1, day 2 pick at the safety position, compared to just being a really good college receiver. He can definitely be an NFL receiver, no question about it. But I think when we're talking about difference makers, a lot of people talk about Jesse Bates, who's from Fort Wayne, who's now in the league. Some people close to Bronte actually think he's even better at this stage than Jesse Bates was. So that's why they see him as a safety at the next level. Notre Dame loves him there. They see a difference maker. Chris O'Leary, the safeties coach at Notre Dame, has done a great job there. So they're going to try to close the deal. He leaves his visit on Tuesday. So in a perfect world for Notre Dame fans, within a week or so, he's actually committed. So we'll see what happens.
Tom, there were only a few uncommitted prospects in South Bend this past weekend for their official visit. And so when you fast forward maybe 6 months or so and you look back at this weekend and how big it was for the Fighting Irish, how do you think this weekend sets up for this 2024 cycle?
Yeah, if you include Bronte Johnson, that you had, who arrived on Sunday, with most of the guys leaving on Sunday, you had 5 guys on campus this weekend. And if I were really a betting man, like I said, I think Menke takes that visit to Duke, so it's going to make it a little dicey. But I think you're going to look back long term and look at this weekend as one of the biggest recruiting weekends of the cycle, really. I know a lot of people are looking ahead to next weekend when you got 5-star defensive end Elijah Rushing coming on campus, and you got Kingston Viliamu-Asa coming the following week, who's one of the top, if not the top, linebacker in the country. So everybody's watching that. But I think when you look back and you talk about Kedren Young, who, like I said, I have landing at Notre Dame, Styles Prescott, the same, RB Lambert, the same, and then Bronte Johnson also landing at Notre Dame, I think you're going to look back and say, like, this was a difference maker weekend for Notre Dame, and really you got some really good players, some difference makers at variety of positions that actually matter for the future of Notre Dame, especially in the trenches. So I think you're going to look back and realize that this was a pretty massive weekend for the future of Notre Dame.
All right, our social team watching right now is already clipping that and sending it online. I know that is exactly what you're wanting to hear if you are a Fighting Irish fan. Okay, I mentioned the Irish invasion camp. I can't wait to learn a little bit more about that. You actually wrote about some prospects like 3-star receiver Derek Meadows and 4-star defensive back Ivan Taylor being 2 of the 2025 standouts from the weekend. So what did they do to impress you?
Yeah, Derek, I mean, I know Blair knows this. Derek Meadows is a tremendous talent. He was really, really good. I mean, it was really tough to pick a true alpha dog, but in the end, when I saw him and I hand timed him, a 4.50 flat in the 40, and he was moving. And then you look at him, and we're talking 6'6", 195 pounds, great catch radius, really good hands, and he actually runs really good routes. So there's just so much to like about him. He's going to win a lot of one-on-one matchups, and I expect him to have a really big season this year at Bishop Gorman. So he was my alpha dog, but right behind him was a class of 2024 defensive back safety, but also I think could play like a rover linebacker, and Anthony Robinson III. He really pushed hard, especially down the stretch. He was fine during the drills, and he looked good, and I know he was banged up, but man, when he started doing the one-on-one reps, that's where he really started to shine and cement himself. I think he took 5 or 6, and he did not lose a single one. So it was fun to watch him work. I see why Notre Dame offered, Ole Miss, Miami, a couple others. And then lastly, the one that I was really maybe most excited to see was Ivan Taylor, the son of Ike Taylor, the Pittsburgh Steelers great. I know Andrew Ivins, our director of scouting, is extremely high on this young man, and he really was probably, up until I really pushed back and watched all the film that I put together from Sunday, he was probably the alpha dog. And then I just couldn't stop raving about Derek Meadows. So Taylor was right there. Loved what I saw. I see why he's ranked so high by our national team. I mean, he really was a difference maker. He's a special talent in secondary. There's so much to like about him. Plus, he's got that dog mentality that everybody likes out of a cornerback. So fun to watch him. I know Mike Mickens, the cornerbacks coach at Notre Dame, was hip to hip with him for much of the camp. So it was fun to watch that. He's clearly going to be a major priority for Notre Dame and really every other school in America from the class of 2025.
All right, Tom, I got to ask you a question from the chat because, as I said, people are clamoring for it. So this one comes from Sean Nelson asking, will Notre Dame land some uncommitted defensive linemen in the class of 2024?
I'm sure they're probably asking particularly about Justin Scott, which everybody wants to know about. But and then I'm sure Elijah Rushing as well. I definitely feel better about Justin Scott at this point. I know Steve Wolfong had jumped on there earlier and said that he was very close to committing to Notre Dame back in January. My crystal ball is still on Notre Dame. I haven't really found a reason to move it. I know everybody's talking about Miami and everybody wants to talk about Georgia, Ohio State, maybe even Michigan. But I just think in the end, this kid who's from Chicago, I know he connected really well with defensive line coach Al Washington. I know he loves Marcus Freeman. Mom is very pro Notre Dame. There's just a lot of things that make me think that he's a kid that's going to stay closer to home. And I know, again, Bulldogs fans, Hurricanes fans, very confident. And I know the staff is as well. But I just think when push comes to shove, he takes his official visit probably for the Notre Dame Ohio State game, and if everything goes as well as expected, it honestly wouldn't surprise me if that could be the moment that he actually makes his decision. But long way to go. That's not till September, so we'll see what happens. But again, my crystal ball still in Notre Dame.
All right. Sean, appreciate the question. Tom, thank you so much for the time. Make sure you are reading irishillustrated.com. That is a place to be. We mentioned the Irish invasion camp. Tom broke down some of the big prospects. He has a full story up right now on all the big-time prospects from the class of 2025 that were in attendance and all the intel. Again, he said he was anticipating a few more commitments to potentially come out of the big weekend. So be sure you are on irishillustrated.com for all things Notre Dame.